What is going on, everybody? We're back from the break, and this is the time we've been waiting for. My name is Zach Demuse, alongside Ethan Miller, Tyler Sandora, and our man, Jon Marks from Sports Radio 94 WIP. The Temple alum himself is on the line with us here today. We're going to bring him in. John, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Can you ask me about Temple basketball?
Yeah, we'll ask you anything you want. Here, listen, John, this is Zach. We're the one who reached out to you on our Twitter page. Just want to thank you personally for coming out. This means a lot to us, especially following you as a leadership role almost going into this industry. So we just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, I love doing it. Hey, ask me anytime.
All right.
I appreciate you asking me.
No, that's awesome. I know. Sometimes on the station, Ike takes over. So now this is your time to get your opinions out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
All right. So we're going to start off real quick. Obviously Temple alum, go Owls here. Temple lost Tuesday night against Belmont. Against Belmont at that time. Were you watching that? What was your takeaway on that game? What were you looking at?
I didn't watch a second of it. I didn't watch a second. I didn't watch a second of the season, and I respect Fran Duffy a great deal. He's a legendary Philadelphia basketball coach.
Yeah.
But reality is that the program, when he replaced John Chaney, they really could have done a hell of a lot worse. Fran Duffy did a good job, but where we are in 2019 is you're just happy if the friggin' Temple even makes the play-in game. So I guess that makes me a bandwagoner. I don't know. At this point in my life, I have 2 young kids. I'm busy. I have a whole bunch of stuff going on, and it competes for my entertainment dollar. It competes for the amount of time that I have to pay attention, and it's just not entertaining anymore. So I hope Aaron McKee can turn it around. I'm rooting for Temple, but I have no interest.
John, this is Ethan. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm now a senior here at Temple, and being here for 4 years, I totally feel where you're coming from. The culture, there's no excitement around the team right now, and it was a shame because I only got 1 tournament appearance while I was 2, I guess you could say. I guess if you count the play-in, but my freshman year when they played Iowa, and since then it's been flat. The energy's been dead, and nobody's really into it. And hopefully you're right. Aaron McKee could turn this ship around and bring the excitement back to Broad Street, but it's tough right now.
It is, and I think what happened was you get Fran that comes in who certainly knows the city and is a good basketball coach, but college basketball changed just like the world changed and everything else changed. The game changed, recruiting changed, everything changed, and that's where Temple didn't change.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It sucks because you look at it right now. Temple is more or less just like an A-10 team that is like people know Temple around the country because of John Chaney, because of the success that happened 20 years ago now.
Mm.
But people know Temple now as kind of being a team that's like, yeah, I know Temple, but they're a fringe team. They're a mid-major. And I feel bad for the students that actually go to these games because
Hey, I'm one.
Us included.
I've been to 50 of them in the last 4 years. So thank you. I appreciate it. It's been tough.
The atmosphere sucks.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's just like it's not what it used to be. And I went to games in McGonigal Hall. I went to games at Leocore Center where you had NBA players on the Temple roster, good NBA players.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to see him get him back to. And you know what? Hopefully Aaron McKee's that guy.
Look at LaVoy Allen, right? He was Temple, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, Fran didn't come in. He just didn't end the season where he was 7 and 20, and he actually made the tournament or at least the play-in game.
Yeah.
But it was time for him to move on, and I'm excited to see what Aaron McKee brings: a fresh energy, a former NBA player, a Philly guy, a Temple, a Simon Gratz guy. When there's city kids, when there's Philly kids that leave this area to go play somewhere else, I want Aaron McKee to feel personal about that. He's got to get some of those guys.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind. I think we all agree that all the respect in the world goes out to Fran Duffy because you're right, he did a tremendous job for this organization. But we're going to switch gears a little bit here. We're going to go towards the Sixers. Now, obviously, a game that a lot of Philadelphia has been looking up to was the game held at the Wells Fargo Center last night. Sixers beating the Celtics 118-115. But, John, I got a question for you. Was that a great Sixers win or just a bad Celtics loss? You have to look at the fact that no Marcus Smart the whole basically third and fourth quarter. Joel Embiid played one of his best games all year, but we only won by 3. So great Sixers win, bad Celtics loss. How are you looking at this?
It was an exciting Sixers win, but I tend to agree. It sounds like you feel that way. Joel Embiid took 21 free throws and made 20 of them.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get that, if he doesn't have that success, if he doesn't get that many foul calls, they don't win the game. And listen, the Kyrie Irving was hot last night, and then he went cold a little bit. That was just wasn't a great Celtics game. If you go to a 7-game series against the Celtics, I still don't think you win. Now, matchups are the key here. So the way it looks right now with 10 games left, the Sixers, unless they totally blow it, their schedule's so soft, they're going to have the 3 seed, which means they're going to play Detroit or hopefully not Brooklyn. So they'll get to the second round, but then they're going to have to face the Raptors.
Yeah.
So they looks like they're going to avoid the Celtics, but they haven't shown they know how to beat the Raptors either. So
and that's the truth, yeah. And
last night's game thinking, oh, we're going to the championship, let's go. Not at all. I don't feel like that at all.
And I have to agree with you on that. I think this was a huge win for the season going forward. But one of the things we talked about on air yesterday was that I think the Sixers were looking at this game a little bit more to lock down the 3 seed, so they did not have to face the Celtics team until the Eastern Conference Final, if we even got that far, if we beat the Raptors. And I think that's really what the mantra was going forward.
Yeah, and they did. Listen, big win, and you have to get that win because the contrary is we're going to be crazy today. But also, they fell down big early, so you have to give Brett and you have to give the guys some credit. I thought Brett did a great job, at least in getting through to Joel Embiid, that he can't be sitting out at the 3-point line the whole night. He was near the basket. He was aggressive. He was trying to get to the foul line. And Jimmy Butler kind of was just laying in the cut, and then the fourth quarter came, and it's like, all right, Jimmy, it's your game. And he made 2 huge 3-pointers. Without those 3-pointers, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, and you got to honestly, that's where I come into it. I think you give credit where credit's due. 2 months ago, we were sitting here, and everybody was freaking out when we were 0-3 against the Celtics on the season. Everybody's like, "Oh, you can't beat them. This is like the Sixers suck." Blah 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 blah. We come back last night. We come back from a 15-point deficit. We get the win, get the job done. I think this team is starting to play well together. I think they're starting to mesh together. I think, I'm loving Tobias Harris, the addition to him and Jimmy Butler. I think everything's looking smooth out there. And I think they'll start figuring it out. I think that by the playoff time comes around, I think by the time we play the Celtics, we're going to be at our best. And I think we can take them to 6 or 7. I think it comes down to Brett Brown and if the guy can coach in the playoffs. I mean, I personally think that. I think we got the talent. I think we got the team. We'll see. This is up to Brett Brown. That's my whole thing.
There aren't going to be many people that blame anybody else other than Brett Brown and Ben Simmons. And again, Ben Simmons last night, they don't even come close to guarding him. And you see what Brett Brown has to do, which is more or less take the ball out of his hands. It's going to be an issue in the playoffs. But I'll say this: if they do face the Celtics in the playoffs, they better beat them. The Sixers have supreme talent. Look at that Celtics team. Listen, they play defense. They seem like they want it more a lot than the Sixers. That's what happened last year in the playoffs. But the Sixers have so much more talent than the Celtics. They better beat them if they face them in the playoffs.
And John, nobody knows better than you, because you listen to it for 4 hours straight when you take callers, the diversity that this city of Philadelphia has when it comes to the man named Brett Brown. We'll get into that a little bit later, but we just want to remind our listeners on WHIP Radio, you're listening to Jon Marks here joining the main event show here from Sports Radio 94 WIP. We're going to hand it off. We got a couple more questions for you, John.
Hey, John, this is Tyler, third guest here. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. One thing I wanted to ask you was, in terms of a psychological standpoint for the Sixers, getting over this hump of beating the Celtics, like we've been saying, has been an issue that's, kind of plagued the team the whole season. Even though we might not be optimistic they can beat the Celtics in a series yet, what does this kind of do to the players and sort of the fans from a psychological standpoint?
It's a great point, and I think because what's the contrary to it? Today, if they lose that game today, people are so mad. People are saying that they can't beat the Celtics. Brett Brown, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid scores 30-some points, 23 rebounds, and they still lose. So it definitely gives the Sixers confidence. Now, the one thing I worry about with that is the overconfidence that sometimes you see with this team, where Joel Embiid comes in and thinks that you're just going to walk in because of the talent and win. They thought that last year against the Celtics. They thought in that series they were going to win because the Celtics were without Kyrie, and they just didn't match up with talent. And you know what? The Celtics kicked their butt because they wanted it more. They were more aggressive. They played better defense. They hit clutch shots. So this gives them confidence, but they have to remember last year, and they have to remember really what they got to play better defense. You got to be aggressive. I love the fact last night that Joe was mixing it up a little bit, that it was a physical game. I want to see them want it like that. So it certainly makes you feel better heading into these last 10 games that this team's ready to make a little run right here. Now's the time. If you want to start with one game, start with last night and move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, John, and I'm almost going to feel like Ben in studio for you guys right now because we got some breaking news. Well, it broke 18 minutes ago. And before we do that, just want to tell you we're going to jump over to the Birds now. But Ian Rappaport reporting that the Eagles are signing Vinny Curry to a one-year deal worth $2.25 million. He will get an additional $1.25 million of upside based on incentives. Now, all season, all off season rather, we listen to your show every day, and one of the things that you continuously bring up is you have no idea what Howie Roseman's plan is right now. What does this tell you, bringing a veteran, Vinny Curry, a second-round pick for the Eagles years ago? He was on the Buccaneers. He went to a couple other teams. What does this tell you going forward in this Philadelphia Eagles offseason? Is this really what they needed?
Yeah, definitely they did. And I mean, with the running back position, I question Howie. This is if you're looking at the Eagles' defensive line right now, not to get too technical, but you have Derek Barnett, you have maybe Chris Long, and you have Brandon Graham. So you definitely needed a backup defensive end, and that's what Vinny Curry is at this point. Backup defensive end that also slides to tackle in nickel situations, which, they need somebody like that too. So this is a really, really good move, kind of to solidify that line. It doesn't mean that they have an elite pass rusher on there unless Derek Barnett turns into that guy, which I guess he has the potential to. But with Malik Jackson, you're talking about just straight across the board. Now, they still need another guy or two in there, a tackle, a big fat guy that can clog up some of those lanes. But, I mean, this is a smart move by Howie. It shores up their defensive line. I like it.
Hey, John, Tyler again. Back to your point about, or I think Zach might have said about the running back situation. What do you think an optimistic, outcome is for the end of the offseason for the Eagles in terms of running back?
C.J. Anderson and a draft pick, Isaiah Crowell and a draft pick, C.J. Anderson and Isaiah Crowell and a draft pick. If they sign two veterans, I'd be happy. The amount of people that are saying they're fine with Josh Adams and Corey Clement and Wendell Smallwood, I mean, it's one of the crazier things that I can remember being an Eagle fan in the last few years. Trust me, they're not good enough. And everybody thinks that the rotation, quote-unquote, in 2017 was fine. They got a little bit lucky, too. They had to add Jay Ajayi in the middle of the season. LeGarrette Blount, if you remember early in that season, people were pissed because the running game was non-existent. Darren Sproles got hurt. So, I mean, listen, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, and I look at the NFC and I say, all right, well, the NFC's not, like, super strong. If you get a playmaker in the running back position, even if it's a second guy that's good out of the backfield, you could go back to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So I hope Howie knows what he's doing. I hope he has a couple of veterans in mind, because signing this veteran like LeGarrette Blount and drafting somebody in the fourth round is not going to fly with me. I can just tell you that right now.
And you just brought up something that was kind of important that kind of segues into our next question. How if they get one or two of these guys, they're back to a Super Bowl caliber team here. And I don't know if you heard, but you probably did. Alshon Jeffrey said last night that this team, well, his quote was, "We'll see you in Miami, Super Bowl 53. Do you think that's just speculation, or do you think really that these guys are kind of coming together already and they trust Carson Wentz is fully recovered? And do you think they're going to make a run closer to Super Bowl 53? And if not yet, what in your mind do they need to do in these next months heading into August and September to kick off this next season?"
Well, I mean, first of all, I wish these guys would shut up and stop.
That's what it sounds like sometimes, right?
And you like the confidence, but at the same time, it's like, all right, like you guys, you struggled a little bit last year. I like the fact that they are going to be more confident this year, and Deshaun will help bring some of that. But I mean, even without running backs, right? Even without knowing what they're doing in the running back position. Let's look at the NFC. You have the Rams and you have the Saints. They're the two obvious that you would put above the Eagles. Then who do you have? The Bears.
Yeah.
Trust me, the Bears aren't going to do what they did last year. They're not going to be as successful. Then who do we have out of the South as wild card teams? You have Carolina. We kind of know what they are. You have perhaps Atlanta. We know what they are. Then Seattle's a legitimate team, and then maybe San Francisco. The point is, there's only two teams on paper that you can say that are better than the Eagles right now, and it never goes chalk in the NFL. It's a year-to-year league. There's going to be two, maybe three teams that made the playoffs in each conference that don't make the playoffs this year. So knowing that, and here's what it comes down to, and people don't want to say it for some reason. They don't want to say that Carson Wentz can more or less control the Eagles' success this year. Carson Wentz can control how good the Eagles are this year with his play.
100% agree.
The great defenders of Carson say, well, it's not fair to put it all on him.
Well, come on.
Sure, it's not fair to put everything on a quarterback.
We got that.
Sure.
We got that deep ball to D-Jacks now. I can start celebrating that on my Sundays now. What do you think about? What do you think about bringing Deshaun Jackson back? I just want to ask that quick question. And do you think
it's a great need?
Do you think we got any shot of bringing back Shady McCoy?
I hope not.
I love. But
I'm with you, John. I'm with you.
Come on. The spurt that he gives you, the excitement, it has an effect.
He averaged 3.1 yards a carry last year, and he has a bizarre history with women. And
yeah.
I want nothing to do with him at all. He would be. Deshaun's one thing, LaShawn's another.
I respect that.
If he was LaShawn from 5 years ago, I would probably forget some of the other stuff, but he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So last question here for you, John. Then we'll let you go because I know you got to start preparing for your show at 2:00. But Eagles opponents a couple months ago were released for next season. I mean, obviously your home games, you got the Giants, Cowboys, Redskins, but interesting lineups and matchups coming up, including the Patriots at the Link, Seahawks at the Link, Bears at the Link. You know they're going to want some revenge. And then on the road games, obviously going down, we're playing that division with the Bills, the Packers, the Vikings, all those kind of guys. What are you looking forward to? Like if you had to guess, without the schedule being released yet, how is this season looking up for the Eagles? Do you think they have an easier schedule, or where would you rank them? Is what I'm trying to say for strength of schedule so far, looking at some of those opponents.
I mean, you always have to look and see kind of how it plays out.
Yeah.
But they're not playing a first place schedule. Like I said this about the Bears earlier. The Bears weren't playing a first place schedule last year. All right. So wait till you see they're playing a first place schedule this year. Last year the Eagles were playing a first place schedule, obviously. So you're gonna at least technically you should have an easier schedule. But see, here's the thing. The Eagles need to play well at home. If they go 6-2 at home and they go 5-3 on the road, that's 11-5 record. If you can go 6-2 and 6-2, or 7-1, and then you lose 3 games, you go 12-4, and then you are, you're a 1 or a 2 seed for sure in your conference, and that's what it's all about. So strength of schedule, they're going to have tough games. They're going to lose a game they probably shouldn't. They're going to win a game that no one expects them to. That happens every year. Look at the end of the year last year with the Eagles. So,
yeah.
I don't know what their strength of schedule looks like, but it's you're going to have a challenging portion of the schedule for sure, and you're going to have some tough road games. But if Carson plays well, and I'll say it again, if Carson plays like he did in 2017, the team's going to be just fine.
Yep.
And I think Carson, the city of Philadelphia, agrees, like you said earlier, whether we agree with it or not, or whether we want to even accept that Carson Wentz is the wild card this year. But, John, on behalf of Ethan, Tyler, myself, the whole WHIP sports department here, we cannot thank you enough for coming on, giving us about 20 minutes of your day. We know you have a show coming up around 2:00, but again, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime, guys. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thanks, John.
Fellow Al, Jon Marks, Sports Radio WIP. Thanks again. All right, guys, how was that? I mean, that was phenomenal. We got insights.
Yeah.
We got everything that we needed to there.
It.
That was fun. That was great having him.
And he even said that we can call him back anytime we want, so we might be having to do that next semester.
Oh, yeah.
We might call you in too, Ethan.
Then you'll have to start calling me in.
I know.
Fit into your busy schedule.
We got to get that in. We got to get that in. All right, guys. So thank you to our listeners out there. We are just about wrapping up here. We have about a minute to go. Just want to remind you guys, you're listening to Philly's #1 college radio station, home of the Temple University Networking Radio Summit. That's going to be held on March 29th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Gym, located at 1755 North 13th Street, also known as the Howard Giddes Student Center, or the SAC, right? Kirby Confer of Forever Media is our keynote speaker. She's going to be accompanied with other radio industry professionals such as Mark Zumoff, Mark Farzetta. All right, looking forward to that. Event is catered by Wawa, and for more information, please be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WHIP Radio. Guys, fantastic show. I look forward to this. Definitely going to give Johnny Marks a call back in the near future. Cannot thank you guys enough for the questions we asked. I think it was a phenomenal day here at WHIP. But that's going to do us for us, the main event here, WHIP Radio. Guys, have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.